Welcome, everybody, to the 90s First Podcasting Network. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Mike, and alongside my co-host Joe, we take you on a journey through the 90s content we have grown to love. Join us on our flagship show, the 90s First Show, where we take a deep dive into the first episode of 90s cartoons and TV shows. Then, on our At the Movies podcast, we take a look and review the 90s movies that we cannot stop watching. And finally, we have Test Your Might, a debate show on the current video game news. If you would like to connect with us, please go ahead and follow us on our social media platforms at the 90s First. And you can also join our Discord server, the 90s First Podcast. Finally, if you would like to support us monetarily, we do have a Patreon. Please go over to our Patreon at the 90s First Podcast to show general support as little as $1 a month. So whichever show you are listening to now, Joe and I would like to thank you so much for listening. We hope that you have a blessed day. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the 90s First at the Movies edition. I'm excited to talk about a wonderful 90s movie that I just love this movie. It's one of my favorites. But joining me, as always, is my good buddy, Jelly. How's it going, Jelly?
Oh, it's going good, man. This was a great choice. Thank your wife for suggesting it because I forgot how good it was.
Oh, man. We'll certainly get into it, but yes. We, in both of the polls that we did for Wife Takeover, your wife won. So
she did. Yeah. She chose some pretty good choices.
Yeah, she chose some
crowd favorites.
Yeah, certainly.
Jurassic Park for the movie. And how do you lose with that?
Yeah, and then Walker Texas Ranger.
Walker Texas Ranger.
So we are doing so last week we did Beverly Hills 90210 to cover our 90s First show, and now we're at the movies we're doing my wife's choice, and that was Good Will Hunting. And so it's sorry, my son is saying something. He's literally saying nonsense. All right. We will be discussing Good Will Hunting today. Jelly, let's kind of just really quickly maybe go through some nostalgia lane. Do you got any nostalgia for this film, or what's your thoughts?
Not true nostalgia, but I remember watching it many years ago at my aunt and uncle's house because that's kind of the home that we watched the that's where we watched the serious movies, the good movies, we'll call them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember it being a very dramatic movie. I was probably too young to be watching it at the time anyways, and so over the years as I've rewatched it, I've grown more familiar with it, and I've grown to like it more and more. Yeah. With this watching, it was probably my favorite watching as an adult, as a parent, as someone who's been through school and been through rough times in his life. I think this one had more impact on me than all the rest of them. But I remember watching it when I was young and thinking, it was a good movie, but I didn't understand it. And now that I'm an adult, it was a great movie. It was a great movie.
It's phenomenal. I don't have too much nostalgia for it either. This is something that I saw as a college student, I believe, in one of my classes or something like that. We were discussing it, and this has to be one of those that it's just a comfort movie. Like, you just go into it, and for me, I know for a fact that I'm going to have not only a good time watching it, but each and every time you watch it, it's not necessarily that you pick out new things, but rather you are just you are still drawn into the characters. You are still compelled by the movie itself. That this is just one of those top tier movies in all facets: filmography, cinematography, acting, directing, just
story.
Everything is quite close to perfect, if not perfect, in this film. So
yeah, even the music in it, the music chosen. For me, that's a huge thing with movies is the audio component that accompanies it. And they did a really good job with this one. I mean, I'm an emotional movie watcher anyways, so the score in a movie can do a lot, and they did well in this one. This one at the end of it's like, oh, cool. I'm definitely gonna cry when this is over. It's great.
yeah. We're all right. Well, why don't we get into it? Mr. Note Taker himself. Where do we start off in this film? I believe it's in meeting our protagonist.
We're in a hallway, or no, he's in his room first time we see him. He's reading a book, which is a cool camera shot. Let's be real. The opening credits scene, this is an old enough movie where they run credits at the beginning. So during the credits at the beginning, we get this cool, almost chandelier shot, or crystal kaleidoscope type shot, of Matt Damon sitting in a pretty sparse room, almost nothing in it, but a lot of books. And you don't really get to know more than that in the beginning. Just that this is a kid who obviously loves to read, and not only does he love to read, he reads incredibly fast. If you watch how fast he's turning the pages, like he's just absolutely absorbing the information in this book. It's a second and a half on the page, other page, then turn the page, like literally that fast. It's just took in the page, page, flip the page. And so you gather that he's either brilliant, smart, quick reader, or there's something else that allows him to have this ability to just absorb knowledge and take in knowledge as quick as he does.
Yeah.
And that's all you get. That's for the first scene. And then you don't really get anything about him for another, a few minutes, because it switches directly into what's the professor's name? Lambeau.
Lambeau. Professor Lambeau. Yeah. So we're talking about Stellan Skarsgård, who is Professor Lambeau, and he is an award-winning mathematician, and we do come to find out that Will Hunting, Matt Damon's character, he is a janitor. He is a custodial worker at MIT, literally one of the smartest schools in the world. And just something that popped out from what you were talking about with Will is that not only does he read fast, but the amount that he can actually retain.
Oh, everything is eidetic.
It's just insane, and it's amazing. And one of the things that I certainly like about this film is that it has multiple angles, multiple lessons, multiple morals that you could take from it. But one of which is that, yes, simply the library can give you a decent education. You could certainly be book smart, but you don't have to pay the highest of the highest college tuitions in order to get the best education.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, like, we come to find out that it really is just book smart, and he's certainly reserved, and he's an introvert at heart, which is pretty interesting. But it's amazing. It's just so fascinating to see that lesson that, hey, kids, you don't have to go to college to get the best education. For some, it's going straight into workforce and just reading. And
now it's even easier.
So, yeah.
Today's day and age, you have the internet literally in your pocket at all times. There's not a high school age student who doesn't have access to every bit of knowledge in the world for free in their pocket.
Yeah.
They can gain all, putting in the work. That's all they have to do. I think that's a good lesson for everyone. Like if you put in the work, if you want to learn something, the information's out there.
Yeah.
And it's just on you to gain it.
Exactly.
But
so,
his quote of $150,000, and you could have had it for $150 or for $1.50 in late fees.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's and it is true. Like, if you put your mind to it, you can get ahead. There's just certain ways to do it, and even when you get later on in the film, you find that Will is having job offers that he has no schooling for at all, but he is that smart because of his memory and his wits and his reading knowledge that it is what it is. But yeah, moving on, we do get Professor Lambeau's character, Stellan Skarsgård, and he has a contest basically. Jelly, can you explain that for us?
He's a mathematician. He puts a proof up on a board in the hallway in the math wing of MIT in their building. And he poses a challenge to his students. Anyone who can solve it will get an award, will get recognized, and will get their name in an article with him in the cover of the MIT Gazette or whatever their newspaper is. So recognition and fame. Essentially, he's offering them recognition and fame in this, and he puts it up. He said, this one took me 2 years to crack. He's obviously a brilliant mathematician. He's the professor at MIT teaching mathematics, and he puts out this challenge, and within a week, we have it solved, and nobody knows who did it. He's at the alumni brunch thing, hanging out, and the students come up and, we just can't wait, Professor. We need to know who solved it, and he has no idea it's been solved, and he's like, "What? Huh?"
Yeah.
So they head off back into the hall. He goes, looks at it over, and realizes that it's done right.
Yeah, it's correct.
And then they kind of cut right there, and then we come back to his classroom.
I don't want to forget one of his students though. He said his name. He's like, "Did you do it?" And he's like, "Heck no." That was
Visham or something like that.
Yeah. So it was just a funny line.
He looks around at like the four of the. I mean, I'm sure that he thought they were the most brilliant in his class.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have recognized them by name.
Yeah.
And they're all like, "No idea. It wasn't me."
So yeah, this is kind of where you get the story of Lambeau, the professor, and Will's starting to mesh. But I think we would be remiss without mentioning Ben Affleck's character really quick, Chucky. Because I mean, you got Matt Damon, you got Ben Affleck. Certainly they wrote this film first and foremost.
Yes, they did.
But certainly you have several movies with them in it, and these guys they're just brothers, not by blood, but just brothers. They really are best of friends,
bonded.
Yeah, brother from another mother type deal. And Chucky, although Chucky is never really a focal point of the story ever, he is 100% necessary and so important to the story, and one of the best characters in this whole film. I would agree.
Chucky he's not really a focal point, but he's absolutely integral to the story because he is the catalyst for a lot of the things that happen. Insofar as pushing the story forward, there wouldn't be any momentum without Chucky and the things that they get into and the way that he pushes him. Just without him having that best friend kind of be there and push him, not only just be there to support him, but also push him into moving into greater things. Like, this doesn't happen without Chucky.
No.
So even though the camera's not looking at him all the time, he couldn't be I would say he's on par with Sean and Professor Lambeau. Sean we'll get into in a little bit, but yeah.
No, I totally agree. Like, just so important to the story, and yeah, I'd put Sean's influence and just Sean, like, just Robin Williams' presence in each of his scenes just a little bit higher than Chucky's, but certainly Ben Affleck is his character is nothing to be scoffed at. And so
I might battle you on that one, man.
Whatever. I mean, it is what it is.
You have to look at the trust that Will has for Chucky, built already over years and years of friendship, versus the trust he has to build with Sean. And while they do build a great relationship, and it leads to almost familial, fatherly sort of relationship, I think without that friend relationship or brotherly, like, I think they're equally important.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd be able to put Sean above Chucky, just in a different light.
Yeah. No, certainly from a different perspective. But influence wise, like, at just over the course of this film, I think Sean is just a little bit more necessary. And here's my reason. He didn't grow up with parents. He's always grown up with brothers in arms, that type of thing. So, like, he's always had Chucky, whereas you see Sean, you see his character sort of develop as the father figure, which was a complete void in his life. And so I think just the conclusion of that, it's both boosted by Sean and Chucky's, Chucky's love, really, for Will. It's boosted by all that. It creates and fosters a better Will at the end of the film. But
I'm on board with that. All
right, cool. So next, Lambeau figures out, okay, somebody solved my problem. So he's like, I'm going to put up another problem.
And not just him, but every professor in the math department got together to get this thing. So it wasn't just one person anymore. He's now got a whole slew of colleagues involved in creating this unbreakable proof, this almost unsolvable problem, a proof, as they refer to it as. Unreal.
And this is where they finally meet. Lambeau and his assistant, they are getting laid out of the office or something like that, and they turn the opposite way of the chalkboard, and then they stop in their tracks because they hear somebody using the chalk, right?
Yep.
So they're like, wait, somebody's solving the problem. So they turn around and they see Will, and Will, of course, he's one of those characters that it's that flea complex, like he sees trouble that he doesn't want to necessarily be in, and he just flees right away. He leaves. And without saying, oh, F you, dude. It's just like,
hey, don't graffiti the whiteboard, or don't graffiti the chalkboard. F off. And he just walks away and then disappears.
which is crazy. And I think the thing you'll notice about this film is that you have lesson upon lesson upon lesson. He said, you exactly just said what I was going to bring up. He says, stop graffitiing the chalkboard. And he automatically had this perception that because he's a janitor, because he's a custodial worker, he ain't smart. He's not doing it, and it's just this like perception of high educated people. Nothing's wrong with education. There's nothing wrong with being highly educated. But at the end of the day, like, you can't, like, I have a college degree. You don't, but I can't look over you. I can't lord it over you, knowing that Jelly is smarter than me in a lot of areas. And,
I love knowledge. It's weird.
It's that type of thing. So, that's another lesson is that
it's the
not
oldest lesson
everything
of
is
the
what
book.
is perceived,
Yeah, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Everyone's heard it. It's the simplest lesson. It's what we're taught from when we're super young kids. Every time we look at something and we judge it, based off sight alone, our parents have told us from the beginning, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a person by what they're wearing. Don't judge a man by what he drives. Don't judge a whatever.
Yeah.
It's always the same lesson. Don't judge based on first appearances alone, because more often than not, you're going to be wrong and make an ass out of yourself by opening your mouth in any way. Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've put my foot in my mouth too many times to count.
Yeah.
But janitor smart.
Exactly.
Janitor be real smart.
Yeah. And then right after that, pretty much the story starts, taking an avalanche. So, it snowballs, basically he, Will and Chucky, they see this guy that, apparently beat up Will when he was in, kindergarten. And, these guys are from Boston, if they see somebody that they don't like, they're gonna do something about it, because because
they're from Southie and they gotta hold it,
Yeah, exactly. So they get in a fight. Will ends up hitting an officer within that fight, and he gets thrown in jail. So that is really where
the story kicks off.
The story kicks off, kind of. So Lambo finds out that he was fired because he was fired from his janitorial position because he was in this altercation with a police officer. And then all of a sudden, I love that court scene. Yeah,
the judge is like, the judge was so fed up with him. He's all, okay, I see here your arrest record and everything you've done wrong, and you've gotten away with all of it. Well, F you, you're not getting away with it this time. And he's going to throw the freaking book at him.
Yes.
$50,000 bail.
Yeah, which...
And you're like, oh, man, he's effed.
Yeah, because, he basically has... he doesn't have any family, that can just do that.
He's an orphan. He's got nobody.
Yeah, there's nobody. So
he's in jail.
In comes Lambo, where he figures out that, he's going to jail. And all of a sudden... he finds a way to which, I mean, it's kind of funny that just like an MIT professor kind of has this prowess. Maybe he had MIT's backing. Maybe he talked to the school board or something like that, whatever. That context isn't filled in. But maybe he talked to the school board and was like, this guy is a genius. We need to get him out of jail. He's an absolute genius.
My guess is he just paid that 50 G's.
No. It says it in the film. He said, we've talked to the judge. You're off on parole as long as you do lessons with me and you go to therapy. That's basically what it is.
You don't think he had to pay up too?
No,
I honestly, financial transaction.
Okay, maybe there was something under the table, something our good buddy Cicero would know about.
He knows about
the mafia lord himself.
Yes,
but
Mario.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, that wasn't contextually filled. So we don't know the story beat behind that. But Will's like, yeah, sure, I'll take math lessons with you, but I ain't gonna see a therapist. And he's like,
he gets away with it again though.
And Lambo's like, well, then you're gonna be in jail. And so he's like, dang it, I gotta see a therapist, basically.
Yeah, and then he Freuds all the rest of the therapists and breaks them one by one.
Yes. And
as we move on to the story.
Yeah, and that's where the connection between Sean and Will start off. So let's pause. Sean is played by Robin Williams. Jelly, is this Robin Williams' best performance?
Definitely one of them. He's had I think he has a lot of really underrated performances that not a lot of people talk about, but this is for sure one of them that I think got a lot of notoriety to show his range of more than just a comedian, because Robin Williams was a comedian. First and foremost, that's what everyone knew him as. He was a stand-up comedian. He was really, really funny. But in this, you get to see you get to see the side of Robin Williams that I think was more real than anything we've seen on screen, up until he had that Photograph movie. But yeah, this serious side of Robin Williams, I think, was one of the most real insights into who he was more of a person than as a comedian and as an actor. And it was amazing. It was, I mean, one of his best performances, at least that I've seen ever. Hands down.
Yeah, hands down, one of his best performances, if not the best. And I was telling you earlier that I really love his performance in Dead Poet Society, but I think his performance is a little lessened in that particular movie by a lot of the other characters, whereas in this one, like we've already discussed, he's so integral to the story in this as Will's therapist that you can't have this film without him. You really can't. No. And as you said, like Will was seeing therapist after therapist. Eventually got to 5 people that he saw and completely tore apart. Was just like, I ain't living up to your facade. I'm not taking it. He doesn't want to do therapy. And so
I don't need you. That's his I think that's his feeling about life in general. I don't need you. He means it. He means he doesn't need anyone. He can survive just as well on his own, and he doesn't want to need anyone. And that's what they get into. But he doesn't need people, and he doesn't want to rely or open up to these strangers.
Exactly.
Why would anyone? But then we get Sean.
Yeah, exactly.
And Sean's not like the rest of them. Not even close.
Yeah, so Jelly, just as you said, why don't you take us into that first therapist scene with Sean, which is, quite frankly, one of the best scenes in the whole film.
The first one was good. I mean, the first one was similar to his other experiences with the rest of the therapists. He walks in. He thinks he's going to do the same thing that he did with everyone else, where he walks in, shows them that he's brilliant and doesn't need anyone. And they do their thing for however long it takes, and they get fed up with him. They dismiss Will as, either a pain in the ass or something, and say they're not going to deal with him, and off they go and try and find someone else. He thinks that's what's going to happen. It kind of happens. We have this scene where Sean's talking, hey, I'm Sean, like, I want to get to know you, essentially. And they have this thing where, they have a power struggle. They have a power struggle where Sean has his thing. He says his piece. Will says his piece. And they have this little, back and forth. Will sees the painting, says, judges everything that Sean is as a person, as a psychiatrist, as everything on this picture of these scenes. And essentially just rips Sean apart.
Oh, yeah.
On an emotional level, just rips him apart. And Sean, does his best to deal with it as he's going, and as Will's ripping him apart, and Sean's there and like eating it and eating it and eating it. And it's all fine as long as Will's ripping Sean apart. And then Will messes up. And Will talks some crap about Sean's wife.
Yeah, and he
opens
he
the door.
Taking no crap. Sean,
yeah, we know Will's a scrapper. We know that he likes to get down, throw down, and throw hands. Yeah. You learn that Sean also, who is from Southie and isn't one to F around with.
Nope, not in the slightest.
He don't take no crap.
No.
So Will talks crap on his deceased wife, and Sean warns him, don't talk about my wife.
Yeah.
Say what you want about me, don't talk about my wife.
Yeah.
And Will does it again. Opens his mouth.
Oh yeah.
Says something about my wife. And from off camera, you get this hand just freaking shooting in and grabbing Will by the throat and pinning him against the wall. And you like, Oh,
Yeah.
S. What just happened?
This is a different type of therapy session.
Yeah, the therapy session is now a boxing session, and I just lost.
Well, yeah, and that was Will's whole shtick with all these therapists, is that he was smart enough to read them. He was
going to read them and break them.
Yep, exactly. So he was going to prove, in his mind's eye, that he did not need these therapists, but. Does he need Sean? And you obviously know that by the end of the movie. And to be honest, the roles reversed. Sean really needed Will as well. And even Sean did, even Robin Williams did say that within the film. He was like, "You fascinate me." He legit said about Will that he is fascinating and he wants to help. Which was the first therapist out of the 6 that he saw in total, that really saw Will for who he was, a person who from Southie didn't have much growing up, and he just needed help. He needed help, both mentally, both. I could throw spiritually in there, just like understanding his foundation and worth. And just
where's his place in life?
Yeah, exactly.
And he didn't have a place.
Exactly.
But yeah, that quote that you're talking about, I've got it pulled up because I have all the quotes pulled up because this movie is so quotable and so good. Sean says, "You think I know the first thing about how hard life has been, how you feel and who you are because I read Oliver Twist," reference to the fact that he's an orphan. He says, "Does that encapsulate you? Personally, I don't give an S about all that. Because you know what? I can't learn anything from you. I can't read in some effing book. Unless you want to talk about you, who you are, then I'm fascinated. I'm in. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to do that, do you, sport? You're terrified of what you might say. Your move, chief." Yeah. And he freaking just leaves it.
And he just leaves. Oh, yeah.
Man.
Just thinking about that as I was watching, this movie has some of the best monologues in any movie. Just some
Absolutely.
of the best, I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking of that Robin Williams scene. I'm thinking of one of the therapy sessions later on, when Will is talking about that job offer that he was getting, and he's telling Sean about it. Man, the monologues in this movie are phenomenal. Even Chucky's monologue at the very end when he's telling Will to just like do something,
And more credit to Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, who wrote the script, who wrote the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously they both star in it and it's their film, but the chops for writing for such good writing, need to not go unnoticed. And obviously I believe they won Academy Awards for it. So they were noticed, but yeah, Chucky at the end of the day, the every day I come by your house and pick you up and go out and have a few drinks, that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where he's like,
exactly.
And then, on the job site one is also so good. He's like, "You better not be here in 20 years or I'm going to effing kill you." Yeah. So, and he I don't say this to be mean because you're my best friend, but.
And he said that my favorite line in that whole scene was he said, "And that's not a threat. That's a fact." That I'm going to kill you if you're still here. But
it's not a threat. It's a fact.
But yeah.
I'll kill you.
So going back just a little bit, before Sean, they do end up going to a bar out at Harvard, the school. And that's where Will meets Skylar. And to be honest, Skylar, played by Minnie Driver, brilliant performance as well.
So good.
But also, this is one of the funniest scenes too. And it's just like it was really cool. We've mentioned it already, the basically you could get your education at the library, just like the amount of just like diss that Will served this Harvard graduate student for reading a book. And it was some of the best. That was one of the best scenes for sure.
And all just in having his buddy's back, having Chucky's back. Chucky sees a girl, cute girl across the bar, goes up, yo, I'm gonna go talk to these girls, Harvard chicks. They're over at Harvard bar, and they're gonna go, converse with them. And Chucky goes up, pretending to be a Harvard student, acting like, oh, that's his in. Hey, we have a class together, blah blah blah. And Mr. Suave comes up with his man bun pony thing going on. Actual Harvard student tries to outwit Chucky. And Will's standing back, just kind of letting it happen for a minute and seeing where it's going. And then all of a sudden, from freaking nowhere, Will comes in the conversation and just absolutely levels this Harvard grad.
It was great.
And ruins him. It's like, oh yeah, says all of his arguments beforehand, says exactly what he's going to say.
Yeah.
Oh, good job. You read a book. Oh, are you going to have some thoughts for your own? How about you be original? And then, insult to injury, P.S., you spent $150,000 on your education. You could have had it for $1.50 in late fees.
Yeah, at the library. Oh man, it is like, I know it was acting, but it's just literally one of the best, like,
so good,
just overall, just like disses of all time.
Oh yeah, and then he follows up with the old insult, salt in the wound to injury.
Yes.
Afterwards, because Minnie Driver's impressed, because Skylar is impressed with Will's showing of knowledge and standing up for his buddy and just in general, and Will gets her number.
Oh yeah.
And as they're walking home from that bar, who do they see in the freaking diner across the street but Mr. Man Bun Harvard boy himself? And he walks up to the window and he's like, "Hey, you like apples?" And the guy's like, "What?
What?"
He's like, "You like apples?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, boom, I got her number. How you like them apples? And it's like, oh man. Yeah, just freaking,
it was the best.
Twist that knife.
Oh man, it was so good. So good.
Great scene. Yo, I always forget about the love story in this movie. When I think about Good Will Hunting, I forget that there's the romance part of it.
And it's a good one.
They did a really
too.
good job with that.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Good love story between them, and Minnie Driver's character Skylar, she eventually becomes like a ground, for a foundation for Will. And at the end of the day, like, Will, you certainly see him have attachment issues to Skylar specifically, and it's not a mere fact that he can't say the words "I love you." It's literally, I would argue that it's literally a mental state that he just cannot bring himself to feel attached to anybody. And that's just because of his upbringing. That's because he was an orphan, because nobody seemed to want to be attached to him. So the first person that actually loves him and is not just some fling, you kind of see some truer sides to Will's personality and character. And that's why it's brilliant that they brought Skylar in, because they could have had a movie where Robin Williams and him are just the people who kind of bring the story all together, him, Chucky, and Robin Williams' character. But at the end of the day, like, you needed Skylar in this film to make just an even deeper connection and an even deeper want to see Will on the better side of this,
Yeah, you need to see him learn to open up. And I think it goes way further than the orphan thing, because you learn as you watch the movie that not only was he an orphan, but he was an orphan who wasn't wanted. He was abused. Just horrendously abused, beat with whatever, anything, fists, tools, had cigarettes put out on him, was stabbed. You name it, he had it happen to him.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just that he was an orphan, but he was not only not loved by those who were supposed to love him, but he was abused and beaten and broken down so bad by those who were supposed to love him that you're right. I think he was incapable of truly opening up, understanding, and allowing himself to feel anything close to love. He had lust and stuff like that for girls, but with Minnie, you see her breaking down his walls and him putting up more and more, and you see him, breaking the walls down, and then he just gets more. He's hiding behind his 12 brothers. He's hiding behind this thing that he's always coming up. He's always coming up with fake things, with walls to put in the way to self-sabotage his relationship. So he has an out. At any point he can be like, I'm a liar, you don't want to be with me, whatever. And Minnie Driver's character Skylar, she demolishes every wall that he puts up.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Loves him anyways, and he can't handle it. And so with her involvement in this film, with her role in this film being so pivotal, like you said, it's like a grounding rod. Will is freaking just lightning. He's erratic. He's everywhere. His emotional well-being is kind of all over the place, and both she and Sean act as these grounding rods to control that chaos. That, hey, here is your safe area. Here is where you can go and where you can be directed and get the help. And between Skylar and Sean, you see this breaking down of walls and this building up of who Will is, as a person. Yeah. And I think that story is huge. And I forget that it even exists most of the time when I'm thinking back about Good Will Hunting. I'm thinking about the genius of Will and the smart and the math and Robin Williams is in it. And then I remember watching it. No, Robin Williams is it. Matt Damon is it. Minnie Driver is it. That they are the story. It's not just things that happen in it. So good. So good.
Oh yeah, for sure. So why don't we do this? Why don't we jump to the end, kind of tell the conclusion, and then we'll fill in some of our favorite scenes. How about we do that? So end of the film.
I'm on board.
End of the film. Will gets his act together. He goes to a job interview. He accepts a job. I'll get to that. He accepts a job. After one of the scenes that I'm sure we'll get to, where he has a conversation with Chucky about, hey, get your life together, that type of thing. He, basically, becomes best friends with Sean, just like complete best friends, father-son figure, basically. And then he's like, okay, I got this job, but it's my birthday and my boy's got me a car, so I'm gonna ditch this job for the girl. He's gonna go see about a girl.
He's got to go see about a girl.
Yeah, he's got to go see about a girl. So then his character eventually comes to a conclusion. It kind of says, hey, I've grown up. I'm ready for kind of quote unquote the big leagues, aka adult life, and I'm gonna go chase this girl whom I'm absolutely 100% head over heels for, and that's such a fitting and awesome ending, because one of the things that they were building through the film is that this guy could get a job anywhere. He could drop his hat where
he can literally do anything.
He could drop his hat wherever he's from Southie Boston, and then he could drive all the way to California to get his girl and find a job there. And that's the end of the film. So let's fill in some of our favorite scenes there, because I think we got the overall impression, overall lessons here. Why don't we talk about some of my favorite scenes? Can I please start?
Absolutely. Go for it.
One of my favorite scenes is when Sean and Will are talking about Sean's wife farting.
So funny.
It's just
so funny.
It's just like, yeah, they're acting and they're laughing, while acting and everything, but it looks and seems so genuine that they're just dying. They're dying laughing, and I'm laughing with them. The premise was that Robin Williams is talking about his wife, and she's like, yeah,
the imperfections in love.
Exactly. He was like, yeah, she farted enough to wake the dog up one time, something like that, and it was. And
she farted so loud, she not only woke the dog up, but she woke herself up.
and then apparently, because he loved her so much, he was like, no, that was me, honey.
Yeah,
and they're just dying laughing. It's, oh man, that's such a good scene. Jelly, what do you got?
Yeah, Yeah, they're talking about how love is the imperfections, not the perfection, quote unquote, that you have in life. There was so many. There's so many between Sean and him. Dude, I've gone over a bunch of them. I love the end quote when he and Chucky are working, and Will's basically told Sean to F off. He told the Professor Lambeau to F off, and he's all, I'm just gonna work. I'm just gonna work. And in so doing, I'm gonna be helping out in a way that I can see. I'll build things for people. I'll be a mechanic. I'll do whatever. And Lambeau thinks that's a waste of his life, and Sean thinks it's a waste of his life. And up until this point,
and also Skylar says, "I still love you," even though they had this falling out. And she invited him to go to California initially, to Stanford, and he denied. And,
shot it down.
Pushed her away.
Yeah. And up until this, Chucky has been supportive of every single decision that Will has made. Mm-hmm. Even the ones that were bad for Will.
Oh, yeah.
Chucky has been the brother that he needed, the friend throughout, the one who had his back through thick and thin, through everything. Mm-hmm. Chucky has been there until the end. And you realize, Chucky opens up. Yeah. He says, "Look, you're my best friend, so don't take this as a direct quote. Look, you're my best friend, so don't take this the wrong way. In 20 years, if you're still living here, coming over to my house to watch the Patriots games, still working construction, I'll effing kill you. That's not a threat. That's a fact.
That's my favorite
I'll effing kill
line.
you."
That is my favorite line.
And you realize how hard this must have been from his point of view, being the dumb friend of the smart person. The quote unquote dumb friend to the genius who can literally do anything, can earn 10 figures a year if he wanted, can do anything type of person. And Chucky finally opens up and is like, "Yo, if you're still here, I'm gonna effing kill you. No joke, not a threat. It's a fact. I'll kill you."
Yeah.
And Will's like, "What the F are you talking about?" And Chucky's like, "You're not like the rest of us. You have this thing." Yeah. And Will's like, "What if I don't want to do that?" He's all, "Not a choice. You're not doing it for you. You're doing it for me. You're doing it for us. You're doing it for your friends, for your brothers who can't do those things. You have to be more, not for yourself, but for other people, and not be selfish."
You have a shot. You have a shot. See, and he even says that. He says, "Me, I'm okay working construction for the next
I'm going to wake up
years.
tomorrow, and it'll be 50 years later, and I'll be here, and I'm okay with that."
And but Will legit has a shot at something big. And Chucky doesn't want to see him waste it. And like you've said before, like you've said throughout this podcast, Chucky is such a brilliant and amazing character. You see his love for Will. He doesn't express it that way. He doesn't say I love you. No. But he loves him. They are the best of friends, the brothers from another mother, and Chucky is not going to see Will completely waste his chance. He
refuses to.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And then the last bit of that conversation is one of my favorite quotes from the whole film, and it's what lets you know how deeply Chucky cares about him, how selfless the love is, because he says, "Oh, I don't know that. Let me tell you what I do know. Every day I come by your house and I pick you up, and we go out and have a few drinks and a few laughs, and it's great. And you know what the best part of my day is? It's for about 10 seconds from when I pull up to the curb to when I get to your door, because I think maybe I'll get there, I'll knock on the door, and you won't be there. No goodbye, no see you later, no nothing. Just left. I don't know much, but I know that."
Yeah. Yeah,
and they cut the scene right there too, and it's it, obviously filming that's very dramatic, and it gives you the feels. But that quote is so real that it's he sees the potential in his best friend to do more, and he sees him throwing it all away day after day after, and I mean day after day, and he sees it.
Yeah.
And Will doesn't see that. And so that's the last little freaking nudge that Will needs. Bro, I freaking love you, but do something, because it's I've had enough. Yeah.
Or if you're gonna stay in Boston, do something big time. You're right. It's such a brilliant scene, and it is if it is second to one, it is second to the scene, basically the final scene, the final impactful scene between Sean and Will, where Sean goes up to Will, and Will's just sitting there, and he's like, okay, I kind of want to figure this thing out. He's kind of like, hey, Sean's just coming off a heated argument with Lambeau. And Will walks in. He's like, hey, I'm here, basically for his therapy session. And it was his last one. Sean had his review in his hand, ready to send over to a judge. And basically it gets down to the point where Sean sees the file. He sees the picture of the boy who was beaten by his foster dad. He sees the pictures of the boy. He sees the boy right in front of his face in person, and he knows for a fact that it's not his fault. And so you get such a powerful scene of Sean just literally just saying it's not your fault over and over and over again. And Will's like, stop messing with me, okay?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know.
I know that. Yeah, he's trying to brush it off and act like it's not a big deal. And I think you're right. I don't think that he's ever understood that the things that happened to him were not his fault. I think, and I mean, it's a movie, it's not real and stuff like that. But like, as a piece of work like that, it's done so well.
Yeah.
They have done it masterfully, and it comes across so real that when he says it's not your fault, when Robin Williams delivers those lines, you believe it. Like, you understand the seriousness with which he says it, and you believe that when he says it's not your fault, that Will's hearing it's not my fault. And he continues hammering that nail home until it finally breaks through.
But you get the sense though that this is literally the first time that he's hearing it, too.
Yeah,
this is the first time somebody has gone up right in his face and he's saying, "This ain't your fault, dude. It is not your fault. That your upbringing, yeah, it sucked. It was potentially one of the worst imaginable. But at the end of the day, it isn't your fault." And I'm here for that, and Sean's saying it's not your fault, and I'm here. And so it eventually apexes into an embrace, and they just hug it out. And Will, you finally see such a super vulnerable side to him, and he's completely vulnerable. He is crying. He's loud crying too. He ain't no like whimpering. He's loud.
He's ugly crying,
he's
bro.
Ugly crying.
He ugly crying, and it's real. And it's the second time only that we see him be embraced by someone who doesn't care about it. The first time was with his scene with Skylar, Minnie Driver. And that was the first real emotional scene that we get in the movie too. Like we get a little bit, but up until that point, that's a real scene. That was a real scene between the two of them, where he's saying, "You don't want to hear about this. You don't want to hear about how my dad put cigarettes out on me. You don't want to hear about how my uncle stabbed me. You don't want to hear about all these things." And she does. Yeah. And she says, "I love you through all of it." And I think that's the first time he ever had that happen to him. And then we're a week later, I think, when he has his meeting with Sean. Yeah. And then it happens again to him, and he can't handle it. I don't think he can grasp what is happening. Yeah. And he doesn't understand. And and at that point in time, they break through every barrier put up, really broken down, destroyed them, demolished them. They're gone for good. Yeah. And we see Will. I would say free for the first time ever in his life from the guilt and the shame and the abuse that had happened to him and what he felt like was his fault. We see him free of that for the first time ever.
Exactly.
And finally willing to be okay with being loved, by Sean and by Skylar. Yeah. Sean, the father figure, Skylar, the girl that he loves but is unwilling to admit it.
And that's really the final lesson that I think we can leave with, is that, whoever listening to this, who maybe your upbringing, maybe your life hasn't been like Will Hunting's, but there are things in your life that just are not your fault. And if you're listening to this now, and you want to reach out to one of us, like we'll talk to you about this. Like, we are an open book. We're ready to talk to you if you need. That's probably the top lesson from this movie in general, is that no matter what has happened in your life that has been bad, yeah, maybe there are some things that you've done that required consequences, but the things related to Will Hunting, it's not your fault. If you went through anything similar that Will did, it is not your fault 100%. And Jelly, we're talking your parents' divorce. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. We're talking about the beatings. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Everything.
We're talking about
picked
everything.
On by other kids. It's not your fault.
It's not your
talking
fault.
about
Mm-hmm.
There are many things that happen in life, and if you eat up the blame for those things, it is just going to weigh you down. We're seeing it right now. Life is real at the moment for a lot of kids. Mm-hmm. And most everything that's happening is out of everyone's control. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are taking fault for a lot of stuff. And yeah, I think the biggest lesson is, stuff happens. Stuff happens. There's out of your control. And yeah, like you said, we're here. We're always willing to talk. We're open. We're open books. We're here. We love to talk, specifically about these things, and we understand. Yeah. Yeah.
We do understand. That's for sure. And we're always willing to talk. So with that being said, Jelly, that has been Good Will Hunting. If you had to rate this 5 out of 5, what do you got?
Bro, it's a 5. It's a 5. Will Sean hugs.
5 Will Sean hugs out of 5. Okay. I will go 6 therapists out of 5. Oof. Because that's how many therapists he saw in the movie. Sean being the last. So, Good Will Hunting, very good movie. It stands the test of time. If you have not seen it, what are you doing?
Yeah, go watch it.
What are you doing?
Simple as that. It's on Amazon Prime. Get a Stars week trial for free, and you can watch it for free. You don't got to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Boom.
All right. Well, anyway, everybody listening, thank you so much for sticking around for 45 minutes, hour with us to Jamokes. If you want to reach out to us, we are on every social platform at the 90s First. We also have a Discord if you would like to join the community there. Not really much of a community yet, but we'll get it going. If worse comes to worse, yeah, we are. If worse comes to worse, just reach us through any of the social platforms: Facebook,
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
The Twitters.
Y'all know them.
And then finally, if you would like to support us monetarily, I know you heard about it at the beginning of the show, but we are on Patreon. Go over to patreon.com/the90s First podcast. And all of the tiers that we have, there are 4 levels basically, but it is all general support. Everybody gets our
little
content.
Or as much as you want.
Yes, we love it all. As little as $1 as well. So if you guys do want to support us monetarily, we greatly appreciate it. But no, it's not necessary as well. So
$12 a year. Let's do it. It's not a big investment.
No, true, but still not necessary. We're just glad you listened. But if you want to support us, that's okay. Jelly, do you got anything else?
Nope. I'm excited to move on to the next one. So next episode, we'll see you guys back here.
Yes, the next episode will be next week, Saturday, as you may have been listening to this. But anyway, this was At the Movies, Good Will Hunting. My name's Mike, and that's Jelly, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye.